A tale of two revolutions, introducing the Khmer Rouge and the Taliban. These two groups, though separated by thousands of miles and different historical contexts, share a common thread of radical ideology and violent upheaval. Their stories are not just about the past, but serve as cautionary tales for the present and future. The Khmer Rouge and the Taliban. These names are synonymous with some of the darkest chapters in modern history. They represent more than just militant groups. They symbolize the extreme lengths to which ideologies can push societies. Two names that echo with a chilling resonance. The Khmer Rouge, with their radical vision of an agrarian utopia, and the Taliban, with their strict interpretation of Islamic law, both sought to reshape their nations in their own images. Both conjure images of brutality, oppression, and a ruthless pursuit of ideological purity. The Khmer Rouge's reign of terror in Cambodia led to the deaths of an estimated 1.7 million people, while the Taliban's rule in Afghanistan was marked by severe human rights abuses, particularly against women and ethnic minorities. These movements, separated by geography and time, left indelible scars on their respective nations, Cambodia and Afghanistan. The Khmer Rouge's radical policies led to widespread famine, forced labor and mass executions, while the Taliban's draconian laws plunged Afghanistan into a state of fear and repression. Understanding these groups requires more than just listing atrocities. It involves delving into the socio-political landscapes that gave rise to such extreme movements. What were the conditions that allowed these groups to gain power? How did they manage to sustain their regimes despite widespread opposition? It demands understanding the historical context. The Khmer Rouge emerged from the chaos of the Vietnam War and the destabilization of Cambodia, while the Taliban rose to power in the aftermath of the Soviet-Afghan War and the subsequent civil war in Afghanistan. We must delve into their origins, ideologies, and the circumstances that allowed them to rise to power. The Khmer Rouge, led by Pol Pot, sought to create a classless society by eliminating perceived enemies of the state. The Taliban, under the leadership of Mullah Omar, aimed to establish an Islamic emirate based on their interpretation of Sharia law. Only then can we grasp the full weight of their legacies. The killing fields of Cambodia and the war-torn landscapes of Afghanistan stand as grim reminders of the human cost of these radical ideologies. This essay aims to dissect and compare these two revolutionary forces. By examining their rise to power, their methods of governance, and their ultimate downfalls, we can gain a deeper understanding of the dynamics of revolutionary movements. We'll explore their ideologies, military strategies, and leadership. The Khmer Rouge's use of guerrilla warfare and the Taliban's reliance on asymmetric tactics both played crucial roles in their respective successes. We'll analyze their strengths and weaknesses. The Khmer Rouge's ability to mobilize the rural population and the Taliban's exploitation of tribal loyalties were key factors in their initial victories. Finally, we'll delve into the hypothetical, what if these two forces clashed? While such a scenario remains firmly in the realm of speculation, it offers a fascinating lens through which to understand their respective strengths and weaknesses. How would the Khmer Rouge's disciplined, centralized command structure fare against the Taliban's decentralized, flexible approach? While such a scenario remains firmly in the realm of speculation, it offers a fascinating lens through which to understand their respective strengths and weaknesses. By comparing these two groups, we can better appreciate the complexities of revolutionary movements and the profound impact they have on the societies they seek to transform. This exploration is not just an academic exercise, it is a reminder of the enduring power of ideology and the human capacity for both creation and destruction. Seeds of discontent, origins of the Khmer Rouge and the Taliban. The Khmer Rouge and the Taliban emerged from vastly different contexts, each shaped by unique historical, social, and political landscapes. Yet their stories share striking similarities in how they capitalized on turmoil and discontent to rise to power. The Khmer Rouge arose in the jungles of Cambodia during the 1960s. This was a period marked by intense political instability and social upheaval. Cambodia, a country with a rich cultural heritage, was grappling with the aftershocks of colonialism and the encroaching influence of the Vietnam War. Fueled by communist ideology and anti-Western sentiment, the Khmer Rouge capitalized on the chaos of the Vietnam War. They presented themselves as the vanguard of a new egalitarian society, promising to rid Cambodia of foreign influence and internal corruption. Their message resonated deeply with the rural population, who felt marginalized and oppressed by the urban elite. The Taliban, on the other hand, found fertile ground in the ruins of war-torn Afghanistan during the 1990s. Afghanistan had been ravaged by a decade-long conflict with the Soviet Union, followed by a brutal civil war. The country was in a state of disarray, with various factions vying for control. Emerging from the chaos following the Soviet withdrawal and the collapse of the Soviet-backed government, the Taliban promised order and stability under the banner of Islamic law. They drew support from a war-weary population desperate for peace and a return to traditional values. Their strict interpretation of Sharia law was seen as a means to restore order and justice in a fractured society. Despite their geographical and temporal differences, both groups shared a common thread. They emerged from periods of intense conflict and instability, exploiting the existing social and political grievances to galvanize support. Their rise to power was marked by a combination of ideological fervor and ruthless pragmatism. They exploited existing social and political grievances to galvanize support. In Cambodia, the Khmer Rouge preyed on rural resentment towards the urban elite and intellectuals. They portrayed themselves as champions of the peasantry, promising to create a classless society where everyone would be equal. The Khmer Rouge preyed on rural resentment towards the urban elite and intellectuals. They implemented radical policies aimed at dismantling the existing social structure, forcibly relocating urban populations to the countryside and subjecting them to harsh labor conditions. Their vision of an agrarian utopia quickly devolved into a nightmare of mass executions, forced labor, and widespread famine. The Taliban tapped into Pashtun nationalism and a widespread yearning for peace after decades of conflict. They promised to restore order and justice through the implementation of strict Islamic law. Their rise to power was marked by a brutal campaign of violence and intimidation, targeting those who opposed their rule and enforcing their interpretation of Sharia with an iron fist. Understanding these origins is crucial. It helps us understand why these groups resonated with certain segments of the population. The Khmer Rouge and the Taliban both emerged from contexts of extreme hardship and disillusionment, offering radical solutions to deeply entrenched problems. It helps us understand why these groups resonated with certain segments of the population. The Khmer Rouge and the Taliban both emerged from contexts of extreme hardship and disillusionment, offering radical solutions to deeply entrenched problems. Their promises of a better future, however, quickly gave way to regimes characterized by extreme brutality and repression. It also sheds light on their brutality. Both the Khmer Rouge and the Taliban implemented policies that resulted in widespread suffering and loss of life. Their regimes were marked by mass executions, forced labor, and severe restrictions on personal freedoms. The Khmer Rouge's radical social engineering efforts led to the deaths of an estimated 2 million people, while the Taliban's draconian rule plunged Afghanistan into a state of fear and oppression. Both groups viewed themselves as righteous revolutionaries, purging their societies of corrupting influences. The Khmer Rouge sought to create a classless agrarian society free from foreign influence, while the Taliban aimed to establish an Islamic state governed by their strict interpretation of Sharia law. Their ideologies, though different in content, shared a common belief in the necessity of radical change and the use of violence to achieve their goals.